Hi, I'm JettKuso, and the year is 2011. Bakugan Battle Brawlers was in full swing, Beyblade was back in action, Pokemon was as powerful as ever, and the toy industry was in a panic to come up with something, anything, to cash in on the craze. And from that period of panic and innovation came perhaps the most simultaneously unique and unoriginal toy line ever made. This is a story full of twists, turns, arrogance, loss, and even murder. Metaphorically.
Murder. Judas. No.
Basically, if you've ever been a fan of battling monster shows or toy lines, you're gonna wanna watch till the very end. This is the tragic story of Monsuno. I know for a fact that if you're watching this channel, you've probably eaten food before. I know I do, but sometimes it's difficult to get food that's actually good for me that I can actually afford, especially when I don't really have that much time to go grocery shopping constantly, and it usually results in any vegetables I buy slowly dying in the fridge because I don't know how to use them. Well, my food woes have basically been ended with HelloFresh. They deliver delicious meal kits straight to your door with foolproof step-by-step recipes that you can prepare or cook in around 30 minutes or less. HelloFresh has turned cooking into an effortless, fun activity rather than a chore I have to do between everything else I have to do. Every ingredient is farm fresh and pre-portioned, so there is basically no prep and basically no waste. And if you're running a family or you have kids, HelloFresh's line of kid-friendly recipes is picky eater proof, perfect for busy families looking to make cooking a bit less stressful and cut down on time spent at the grocery store. If you're even a tiny bit interested in HelloFresh, use my link or go to HelloFresh.com and use code POGJETSEPT16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes plus 3 surprise gifts. Once you click, my description will live update to count up the purchases. Again, use my code POGJETSEPT16 at HelloFresh.com and start eating better. For the tragedy of Monsuno to make sense, first you need some context, so bear with me. The early 2000s were a golden era for what we in the business call toy-based battling games. Following the success of Pokemon, about 8 billion franchises appeared from the mist, trying to cash in on the battling monster hype and add their own spin to it. Perhaps the most successful Me Too brands of that era were those that tried to transpose the battling monster concept into new mediums that Pokemon had never covered. This culminated in the incredibly crowded toy-based game genre. Beyblade, Beat-em-on, Zevos, Tactics, Gormiti, yada yada yada. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if there was one named yada yada yada. That sounds exactly like one of those names. In some ways, these toy lines couldn't be more different from each other, but the common denominator was that every single one came with an attached battle-based game that most people, fans included, never got to play. The genre ultimately culminated in Bakugan Battle Brawlers in 2009, a marble-based monster game that took the best of everything before it and put it in a streamlined, creative, and collectible package. The phenomenon of Bakugan triggered its own wave of Me Too's, no longer trying to cash in on Pokemon, but trying to cash in on the cash-in. Hasbro relaunched Beyblade in the US, as well as a Transformers-based line called Bot Shots. Oh, bot shots. Meanwhile, LEGO not only added a game feature to Bionicle in the Glatorian line, but put out LEGO Ninjago as basically a complete mashup of Bakugan and Beyblade plus ninjas. For some reason, literally no one remembers that Ninjago started out as a Battletop card game. Post a comment if you ever played the Ninjago Spinners game. By 2012, Bakugan had reached its zenith and was starting to decline as the brand lost focus. And in this, the toy company called Jakks Pacific saw its opportunity to pick up the slack with a bold new toy/game concept. Oh yeah, this is perfect. This is gonna do numbers. The Monsuno toy line had 3 components: cores, monsters, and cards. I never got to play the card game. Let's look at the toys. You may look at this wide array of funky monster toys and wonder how they could possibly turn into anything action-packed like a Bakugan is. It's a good question, because perhaps this is the most clever part of the whole toy line. Each of the Monsuno monsters folds up in a specific way, bending and squishing till they're able to fit into a plastic tubey guy called a core. There's a green marked plug side to each folded creature that plugs into a spring-loaded plate inside the core where something internal locks into place. Click. Oh, what a good click. Two players face off with their loaded cores and shout, Monsuno go? Monsuno core spin. Monsuno strike? These things always have some kind of stupid catchphrase. Hang on. Ah! Both players launch their cores while saying Monsuno TM launch. Okay, let's try it. Monsuno TM launch! Hey, that's pretty good. Once one core is spinning, the opponent takes their core and does the same. And if you're very lucky, the resulting impact will be kinda cool. Monsuno TM launch! Whoa! Okay, so check it out. The cores don't have any sort of buttons or triggers. The mechanism is all internal, and the Monsuno won't be released unless it receives a significant enough blunt force impact. Usually this means just slamming it against the table, or your knee, or your roommate's cat, or your brother's car. Your brother. Never mind, just use the table. So the basic play pattern of Monsuno is launching cores at each other and trying to get a strong enough impact that both of the monsters pop out. This is not very easy. Monsuno are hard to aim as is, and the battlefields they made, oh, they don't help. Oh, they're not good. They usually influence the path of the core very negatively, and on top of that, the different monsters and cores have vastly different impact tolerances. Some have such a hair trigger that you can't even Monsuno TM launch them without an incident, while others simply won't release no matter how hard you try. When the line first came out, day one, my brother and I made a video called Let's Give Monsuno a Chance, where we set up the cameras and filmed our very genuine efforts to try to get the toys to work. We weren't impressed by the circus that ensued, but it was still pretty fun. Ability card activate! And most of the problems were caused by the battlefield changing the trajectory of each launch. But even more failures than that were the result of us not realizing you're supposed to launch a defending Monsuno first, then launch an attacking Monsuno at the one that's already spinning. This small change really fixes things. Despite the functional challenges, if you're using them correctly, a bit of practice and trial and error works wonders, and the core back and forth gameplay can be pretty fun. Really though, the best part of the toy line was the monsters themselves.
The power of the in the palm of my hand.
Tiny, little boys, little guys, yes! The monster designs for Monsuno were incredible. Creatively crafted creatures carefully constructed to cradle comfortably in cramped conduits conceived to copy credible creators. The very engineering and sculpting of each Monsuno monster create a vast menagerie of lovable beasts in an era where a Bakugan toy could imply a monster, but they still looked like they were made out of an orb. Monsuno was different. With a Monsuno toy, you could tell exactly what the monster in the show was going to look like and vice versa. Reboot Bakugan sort of caught up to this level of design with things like Web'em and Trox Ultra, but Monsuno managed to fully realize the Pokemon/Pokeball formula in actual physical space. Now, this had its own downsides. The monsters are very small, and the activations just aren't very visible. Rather than the engaging physical action component that Bakugan has, during gameplay, Monsuno monsters felt highly secondary. Basically just a missile that fires out of the core so fast you can't see it, with a little number on it that you have to read. But for all the downsides, the upsides are evident and adorable. A collection of Monsuno monsters is delightfully cute. And just like with Bakugan, it's fun to pop one out and see what it turns into. Admittedly, it feels a little bit redundant that each monster has its own cores when the cores only have 3 different molds, one for each faction. I feel like it really could have been more like Beyblade, where a core is just a launcher that any monster can be loaded into. I think they were kind of trying to change things to fit that idea in the second season with like 3 packs that come with 1 core and 3 Monsuno, but that stuff was like never distributed widely, and I'll probably have to talk about that another time. Storage, by the way, would have been a lot more difficult if not for the core lock feature. Each core has a switch you flip to lock the monster inside the tube, which is absolutely necessary for any of the accessories to function. Yeah, there were accessories. Accessories are one of the things that makes a brand like this immersive, and Legacy Bakugan was great with accessories. Gloves, launchers, cases, clips, shelves? I totally forgot they made officially licensed Bakugan shelves back then. In the same way, Monsuno put out the stock clip, the battle bandolier, the strike case, the battle bag, the core transport case, the strike glove. It's a fingerless glove with a red flashlight on it. Silence, brand! Some of this stuff was obviously a little bit bloated, but the stock clip specifically was actually really good. Unlike Baku Clip at the time, it had storage for enough cards to play the intermediate game, and it also worked with the Battle Bandolier, which had a deck box that could be swapped for the stock clip. Snazzy stuff. Stylish. The strike case was made in the exact same style as Bakugan cases, and made for half-decent storage at least. Meanwhile, launchers in Monsuno suck exactly as much as launchers in Bakugan did, with one exception. The Auto Strike multi-launcher, I think, warrants no need for explanation. It's a lot, and it kind of immediately reveals a problem with Monsuno. An utter lack of focus. I mean, good grief. Plushies, PJs, giant white sock'em bopper Hulk hands. There were so many products that didn't have anything to do with gameplay. Like the Wild Core. It's a motorized Monsuno core without any monster features. Just a button that stops it from spinning if you hit it with a Monsuno. I don't have an end for that bit. Kinda just a bunch of stuff. And the game itself wasn't streamlined either, due to a phenomenon I like to call choose your way to play syndrome. The beginner format used no cards, the intermediate format used some cards, and then the advanced version of the game used a lot of cards but didn't use the toys? You'd think that would be counterproductive to the whole concept of a toy-based card game. You'd be right, it's not great, moving on. It's hard to explain what Monsuno was, because in truth, it was trying to be everything at the same time. Jakks Pacific went all out. They put out Halloween costumes in year 1. The commercials were dubsteppy.
Spin, explode, into action, crash into battle.
This brand was meant to be huge, and the amount of money they must have spent, I can't even imagine. The TV show ran for a full 3 seasons, and I recall it being pretty okay. I didn't watch a lot of it, but that's also when I started reading Homestuck, and that absorbed most of my time, so you can't really blame Monsuno. Monsuno wanted to be Pokemon, Bakugan, and Beyblade all at the same time. And you wanna know the crazy part? I actually think it got close. The toys were good, the gameplay was fun, and the whole thing had a slick polish of good design and expensive marketing. Monsuno had huge potential, but is a lack of focus really enough to explain its failure? The Bakugan reboot has many similar problems. Too many versions of the game, choose your way to play syndrome, a show that's totally disconnected from the play pattern. And yet, the Bakugan reboot has been insanely successful. So what happened? What's the difference? Well, there's something I've failed to mention until now. When Monsuno released, the toy-based game genre wasn't simply declining in popularity. It was being murdered. It wasn't the bloated product line and unfocused gameplay that killed Monsuno. It was beauty killed the beast. Right before Monsuno hit the scene, so did frickin' Skylanders! The first good Toys to Life game, and the only thing that any child spent their Christmas money on for a solid 3 years. Toys to Life, the integration of a digital game with physical toys that would come to life inside the program. It swept through and disrupted the toy market in a way we are just starting to recover from. None of the Skylanders copycats were anywhere near as successful, and just like app-based toy integration games, the whole genre ended up having no staying power. But regardless, that year, any consumer money that might have gone into toy-based action games like Bakugan or Monsuno started funneling into Skylanders, and Monsuno was left as the last dying scream of the genre as it had been. I'd sunk a lot of my hopes into Monsuno back in the day. When I was only 14, I pivoted my channel from Bakugan into Monsuno, hoping it would be the next big thing. And in the short term, it paid off. Jakks Pacific found my channel and set me up as a small-scale spokesperson for the brand. They sent me toys, brought me to events to film, got me interviews with the creators, and in turn, I learned business skills that I still use to this day when working with toy companies. Then, within a year of its launch, Monsuno flopped. I lost contact with the marketing lady I'd been working with, and so the JettKuso channel faded away. But I don't regret it. Monsuno was fun. On paper, it was a perfect idea, with a good enough execution that it really could have worked. But Jakks Pacific couldn't have known how big Skylanders would be, and maybe there's a lesson in that. We can only make plans with the information we have, and just because it turns out bad doesn't mean you should look back and say the plan was bad. So make your plans, be smart about it, chase what you want, and don't be down on yourself if it doesn't work out. You did your best. Keep trying. Thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. And also, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell icon so you'll never miss an upload. And please, if you would, consider supporting my channel on Patreon. Even just a $1 donation a month gets you a shout out in a video and helps me make more videos in general. This is JettKuso, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much to all my Patreon supporters, my Diamond patrons Chell and Immortal Blank, my Titan patrons SheVitus, Sierra 107, Skinny Chalk, VarronOoC, Big Chungus 69, MugwumpShadow, GUSANO, JuicemanZYT, Knott, and new Titan patron Cure Nurse. And then in the Hyper patrons we've got Gavin Greenlee, David, Bin Wang, Trouble, Merrick, and new patron DuskAnthro. And of course, thank you to my new base patrons Joe Schmo, Susan Olmstead, and Chris Kilis. Thank you all so much.